Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink of water here. My voice has been real dry all day. Okay. I got to address two things. The subject of rats and the subject of people living in closets who have nothing else to do. Well, I should be listening to Jim Malyard right now, because I said I'd listen to his program, but instead I listened to Gabcast, which I don't normally do, and I don't normally listen to Noory, because I'm posting, and I'm reposting Noory shows, and Jesse Ventura stuff, and UFO videos on my forum. But I hear George Noory ranting about all the haters and how they closet in chat rooms and how they, I guess, hang out in closets. Well, I got closets here. I couldn't fit me in a closet. Even if I was thin, I couldn't fit me in a closet. I'm 6'2". There's no room in the closets. It's full of stuff. One closet's for my old computer stuff, my Apple IIs, my Apple II GSs. Another closet is full of computer magazines. Part of the closet is full of my raincoats and jackets. I guess I could take those out, but it's still too damn small. I could fit maybe me if I squashed down like this. This closet back there's got a dresser and clothes things. So there ain't no room in my closet for more than one person unless I took everything outside. Then my neighborhood bitch, the stuff's in front of her door. So, ain't no room in my closet, George. And as for anonymous people, well, I'm the guy from Pittsburgh, but you know my name, George Senda. So let's put that to rest. At least one guy out here is putting his name out. Everybody knows who I am. I'm not anonymous. I'm not a guy with a goatee and a weird mask. Although some people may say I have a weird face and weird hair and weird apartment and a weird light. But, you know, George, the people that talk about you on Bellgab and elsewhere that don't like your show or don't like what you're doing on this show are not haters. A lot of them give constructive criticism about what they think you should be doing with the show or what they don't like what you've done with the show. But for some weird reason, you think everybody hates you. You know, what's that song? Nobody likes me, everybody hates me. I guess I'll go eat worms, big ones, little ones, fat ones, thin ones. Well, not everybody hates you, but there are a lot of people out there that were coast-to-coast listeners for years and don't listen to you anymore. They can't stand the verbal flubs. They can't stand you've branched out into entertainment. You have Billy Mumi on and Pat Boone and Shirley Jones. And you have guests to tell you how prayer will work. Well, it didn't work for me when I was younger. And when I got into problems that were incredible or amazing. And then you post on Bellgab that Bellgabbers eat rats for dinner, which is so childish as to be unbelievable. What kind of wine goes with rat, George? What kind of marinade do you use on rat? And how do you know of Bellgabbers' culinary taste? You know, a rat and a squirrel aren't that much different. A rat and a possum or a skunk. But you seem to know what Bellgabbers are eating. I don't get that one, George. And the other thing, you keep claiming that your listenership number is going up. And yet on Talkers, the talk radio site, your number sat there from June until recently at 2.5 million listeners, sharing with people like poor Michael Medved who has throat cancer and other people. Number 6 out of about 25. And they went nowhere. And the reason you have more listeners is because your network has gone completely to iHeartRadio, and you can listen to Coast or Rush 24 hours a day on your iPad or your iPhone or your Mac. I listen to Rush in the living room on my iPad because KSFO comes in staticky. And I listen, excuse me, then I listen to Michael Savage Then I go on to do other things. And this other thing, you're saying that we have no life. I admit I don't have much of a life. We have nothing else to do but hang around in closets. Well, I'm not gay. I don't hang around closets. I don't have a closet I could hang around. And the only guy I knew that hung around, and only two guys I knew that hung around in closets were Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin, and occasionally Maxwell Smart. They had to open a closet to get into Uncle Headquarters, and so did Max to get into Control or other places. So that's ridiculous. We hang around in closets and we hang around in chat rooms. Well, they hang around in chat rooms during Gabcast. There's about 30 people in there when I went on tonight. There were, I've been told, 60 people or more when I was on Gabcast several times. But they're not hanging around there 24 hours a day because the show only runs, what, an hour? So I guess the other fifth of 23 hours, they go hang themselves in a closet like a vampire. George, I think sometimes you think that you're persecuted because people don't like the direction of the shows or the topics you talk about or the guests you bring on, and you don't confront them. When you got someone like John Hogue who says he made accurate political predictions since 1968 for presidential elections, and I've done videos showing that he was wrong, you don't say, John, you're wrong, and here's the proof. And you don't do that with other people. You just sit there and say, what wonderful predictions you've made in the past, and we'll have you on again real soon. And it becomes milquetoast radio and softball radio, except it's a deflated softball, like those Patriots footballs. Because you won't get into controversy, George. Everything is, don't make waves, don't rock the boat. And the only time you rock the boat is when you feel threatened. You're talking about Art Bell and you're talking about Bellgab because the clock is ticking, George. Art Bell is going to return in July, and he'll probably clean your clock. Because people who aren't listening to you will be listening to Art. And then you will say, well, he's gone, he's quit, he's gone, he's quit. Well, you know, Art will be there. Unless something happens to his back or, God forbid, his wife or his kid or his cats. Where he falls off the porch again in a famous Art Bell show. Where he fell off the porch and had to go to the hospital. Where he glues his lip together with crazy glue. We don't hear any of that kind of stuff from you because you play it safe all the time, George. Now, I like you personally. I think you're a nice guy when you're off the air, but something happens to you. And another thing, what was with the creepy voice when you did that? Your voice changed like you've been possessed by a demon. And you get that thing on Getting Rid of Spirit show, and you sound like you were, oh, this is George Noory, and then suddenly your voice changed. I can't do your voice the way it was, but it was very creepy. Like you were possessed by a demon. So get an exorcist, George. Get these ideas that everybody who doesn't like your show is a hater. That everybody who makes critical comments about your show is a hater. Because there have been some constructive comments. One guy suggested you have a round table about the pros and cons of vaccines, and apparently you took him up on it. I've sent you show ideas. I've sent you news stories. You've used some of those. I just want you to do a better show. One that's worth listening to. They don't turn off and, well, I guess I'll go to sleep now. I didn't have that problem during years and years and years of Art Bell. I'd fall asleep, but I wasn't put to sleep. And your show puts me to sleep a lot of times. Or the guests are so inane that I can't listen anymore. Or the callers are so dumb. You had some of that on Art too, but nothing like we get from you. And one other thing that really bugs me, I remember reading it in Time magazine, and I've posted it. Art had 15 million listeners, and you claimed that the rating system and the way they tabulated the number of listeners in that days was too primitive. Well, Time magazine said he had that many listeners. And I'm sure somebody could go back and look in the Arbitron books or the Nielsen ratings. They had radio ratings back then, or maybe they just started. But I know I've gotten requests from Nielsen to be a Nielsen listener, which I've signed up for various times. Aren't had that many people. And one reason your listenership has gone up is iHeartRadio. People can listen to you anywhere in the world. So I don't know where you get some of these ideas. Maybe they're delusions, or maybe your softball producer like Lisa and Tommy will never let, and seldom is heard a discouraging word on the George Noory Coast to Coast AM. That's because no one can call in who says anything bad about you, George. You won't let them. Not that I'm telling people to call and say something bad about you. But it's all, George, we love you. You're so wonderful. We love what you've done to the show. Where other people say, George, we can't stand what you've done to the show, and we don't listen anymore. And this probably make you mad. But saying people eat rats for dinner is absolutely ridiculous. And saying people live in closets when they're not in chat rooms is also ridiculous. I've been in lots of chat rooms over the years. I've been in chat rooms before we had podcasts. In the days of bulletin board systems, we had chat rooms. I got other things to do. I go eat dinner. I do my laundry. I go out with my girlfriend. I sleep. I watch television programs. I'm not sitting in a chat room 24 hours a day, and probably neither is anybody else. And a lot of these guys that used to be your listeners, they work for a living. I don't. So I could be in a chat room all day, but I look at some of the posts and say, this isn't for me. I'm going to go do something else. Or someone calls me on the phone, and I go, who is it? It's Little Chris or Drone or somebody else. And I got to get out of the chat room because I got to talk to them. So, we do have a life, George. It doesn't revolve around George Noory. It doesn't revolve around Art Bell. But, Bellgab talks about you, and they talk about Art Bell, and they talk about other talk show hosts like John B. Wells and Ian Punnett and other people who've been on Coast in the past, and other people like Jim Mallard, and Jesse Ventura. You're not the only star in the firmament, George. Maybe you think you are. So that's all I got to say, and I'll say my usual free Art Bell, free Coast to Coast, and, reference to Jim Mallard. I like teasing about it. Free the duck. And this is the guy from Pittsburgh. You know who I am, and I ain't no anonymous. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.